I said you were never qualified to begin with." The words sliced through the marble halls like glass. A suitcase tumbled down the stairs. A woman's voice cracked. "They don't need another nanny, Mr. Cross. They need their father." But Ethan Cross didn't flinch. He'd built empires out of control, discipline, and silence. And that silence was killing the very things he thought he was protecting. Behind closed doors, 5 daughters learned to eat quietly, to laugh quietly, to hurt quietly. Until one day, a stranger would walk in and turn that silence into music again. What Ethan didn't know was that the next woman to step into his perfect mansion wouldn't come to serve him. She would come to save them. This is Hidden Black Echoes, where the stories of struggles are told, the rise and the voice of those the world tried to silence. If you believe that true strength isn't measured by power, but by how gently we use it, hit like and subscribe. Because in the next few minutes, you'll see how one woman's quiet defiance broke through a billionaire's walls and taught his family what love really sounds like. The nanny's hands shook. "Mr. Cross, with respect, your daughters don't need another nanny. They need their father." He didn't blink. "They have one." "No," she said quietly. "They have a man who signs checks." The words hung in the air like a slap. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're dismissed." She left in silence, tears in her eyes, the echo of the front door closing louder than any argument. A young assistant appeared, tablet in hand. "That makes number 97, sir." "Then find number 98, Ethan said flatly. "Sir, the agency mentioned—" He turned sharply. "I didn't ask what they mentioned. I asked you to find another nanny." The assistant nodded quickly and left. Silence settled again, thick and uneasy. The house looked perfect, but it felt dead. From behind a door, a small voice whispered, "Is she gone again?" Ethan turned. His youngest, Lily, stood clutching a teddy bear missing one eye. "Yes, she's gone," he said. "She wasn't the right fit." "She cried," Lily whispered. "They always cry." He knelt beside her, trying to sound gentle. "Sometimes people aren't strong enough for hard jobs." Her eyes lifted slowly. "Are we the hard job?" He froze. The question hit deeper than he expected. Lily didn't wait for an answer. She ran down the hall, her small footsteps fading. Upstairs, faint piano notes drifted from behind a closed door. His eldest, Emma, practicing the same lullaby her mother once played. The notes were uneven, hesitant, but they were still trying to exist in a house that forgot what music sounded like. Ethan stopped in the hallway, staring at a framed photo on the wall. His late wife, Catherine. Her smile was warm, alive, a cruel reminder of everything he'd lost. He whispered under his breath, "You'd hate what this house has become." Dinner that night was quiet. 5 plates, 5 daughters, 1 distracted father. Emma said grace without emotion. The twins argued over bread. Sarah ignored everyone. Lily drew patterns in her peas. Ethan looked at them all, the legacy he couldn't manage. "You will behave," he said firmly. "You will respect this home. You will make your mother proud." No one looked up. When the meal ended, they slipped away silently, leaving him alone at the long dining table. He stared at their untouched plates. The reflection of the chandelier shimmered in his glass, and for a moment, he didn't know if he was looking at light or loneliness. From the corner, the old housekeeper spoke softly. "Sir, Maybe what they need isn't another nanny. Ethan didn't turn. I need results, not sentiment. She sighed. And yet, all you have left is silence. He said nothing. Outside, rain began to fall, tapping gently on the windows. Somewhere upstairs, one of the girls cried into her pillow. Ethan stood alone in the vast dining room, the weight of perfection pressing down like glass walls. He'd built empires, conquered markets, and turned struggling companies into gold. But within the walls of his own home, he couldn't fix a single broken heart. The phone rang. He answered on the first buzz. "Send whoever you have," he said. "I don't care who she is. Just make sure she lasts a week." He hung up. The rain outside grew heavier, washing down the marble steps like the world itself was trying to cleanse the house of its grief. And as lightning flashed across the window, Ethan stood staring into his reflection. A powerful man with nothing left but power. He didn't know it yet, but the next woman to walk through his door wouldn't just stay longer than a week. She would change everything, because she wouldn't come to serve him. She would come to save them. The morning light stretched across the Cross mansion like a reluctant guest. A silver car rolled up the long driveway and stopped beside the fountain. The housekeeper peeked from the window, her brow furrowing. "Another one?" she muttered. "God help her." The front door opened, and a tall black woman stepped in, calm, poised, with warm brown skin and a steady grace that made even silence feel safe. She wore a simple blue dress, modest shoes, and a small silver locket that shimmered when the light hit it. "Nora Williams," she said softly, her voice calm but confident. "The agency sent me." The housekeeper blinked. "You're number 98. Nora smiled gently. "Then I hope I'll be the last." Before she could say more, the sound of footsteps echoed through the marble hall. Ethan Cross appeared, crisp suit, unreadable face, a man whose every breath demanded order. "You're early," he said, checking his watch. "I believe families like this need someone early," she replied. "It shows I'm serious." That answer caught him off guard. He studied her, the quiet assurance, the lack of fear. Most candidates looked terrified within seconds. This one didn't even blink. "The agency said you've worked with large households," he said. "Yes," Nora replied. "And broken ones." Ethan's gaze sharpened. This one isn't broken. Her expression didn't change. "Then I suppose I'm here to make sure it stays that way." For the first time in months, Ethan didn't know what to say. Before he could respond, the twins raced down the stairs, shouting at each other. Sarah slammed a door somewhere upstairs. Emma walked past without looking at him. Nora watched quietly, her eyes taking in the chaos. She turned back to Ethan. "Would you like me to start now?" He exhaled through his nose. "You'll find the girls difficult." "Children aren't difficult," Nora said. "They're unheard." That line lingered. Ethan turned away, hiding whatever flickered in his expression. "Do whatever you need to do. Just keep the house running." She nodded once. Understood. By noon, the mansion had tested her. The twins ignored her completely, pouring milk on the table during lunch. Sarah played loud music upstairs. Emma refused to come down at all. Most nannies would have snapped, shouted, begged. Nora simply observed. When the twins spilled their drinks again, she didn't raise her voice. She calmly handed them towels. "If you make the mess," she said gently, "you clean the mess." That's how big girls grow. They hesitated, then, to their own surprise, obeyed. Later she found Lily sitting alone in the garden, drawing circles in the dirt with a stick. May I join you? Nora asked softly. The girl looked up, suspicious. You'll leave soon. They all do. Nora sat beside her. Maybe. But I don't leave before I listen. That made Lily look up again. Everyone's scared of Daddy, she whispered. Are you? Lily thought about it. Sometimes. But mostly, I think he's sad. Nora smiled faintly. You might be right. Evening came, and Ethan passed by the dining room just as he heard laughter. Light, genuine laughter, echoing from the table. He stopped. The twins were giggling. Sarah had her phone down for once. Lily was telling a story with crumbs on her plate, and in the middle of it all sat Nora, listening, guiding, never commanding, just steady, calm, present. When Ethan stepped in, the laughter died instantly. The air tightened. Nora looked up. Mr. Cross, she said, would you care to join us? He blinked. No one had asked him that in months. No, thank you, he said, almost awkwardly. Nora stood and poured him a glass of water anyway. Then at least drink something. It's been a long day. He hesitated, then accepted the glass. His reflection rippled in the water, a powerful man suddenly unsure. Your daughters did well today, Nora said, especially Lily. She's quiet, Ethan replied. Quiet doesn't mean weak, Nora said. It means she's thinking. He didn't answer. When he turned to leave, she added softly, and so are you, Mr. Cross. You just forgot how to listen. He stopped in the doorway, her words catching like a thread he didn't want to pull. That night, he stood outside his study, listening to faint laughter from upstairs. The sound felt foreign, like a melody he used to know. In the kitchen, Nora washed dishes under soft light, humming Hush, Little Sparrow. The tune floated through the air, tender and nostalgic. Ethan leaned on the doorframe. You're not like the others. Neither are they, she said. He nodded slowly. I don't know if you'll last a week. Nora smiled without looking up. Then let's make it a meaningful week. And for the first time in years, Ethan Cross walked back upstairs, not as a CEO, not as a man trying to control everything, but as a father listening to the sound of his children laughing again. The next morning broke with the sound of rain tapping against the mansion's tall windows. Gray clouds blanketed the sky, softening the edges of everything, the marble halls, the gold-framed portraits, even the cold silence that usually ruled Ethan Cross's home. But that morning, something had shifted. A faint melody hummed through the corridors, a lullaby. It came from the kitchen. Nora stood by the stove, humming Hush, Little Sparrow, as she flipped pancakes onto a plate. Her voice carried warmth that seemed to melt into the air itself. It wasn't loud, but it reached far, enough to pull 5 sleepy girls from their beds and guide them toward the scent of butter and hope. Ethan stood by the doorway, watching. He hadn't meant to. He'd only been passing through, checking emails, but the sound made him pause. His daughters, usually quiet, guarded, were giggling at the kitchen counter, actual laughter. It startled him more than the sound of thunder outside. Nora turned, caught his gaze, and smiled softly. Good morning, Mr. Vale, she said. The girls helped me with breakfast. Hope that's all right. He cleared his throat, adjusting his cufflinks, though he wasn't wearing any. Of course. I just wasn't expecting... Laughter, she finished gently. He froze, then looked away. Something like that. The girls didn't notice the tension between their father and the new maid. They were too busy racing each other to pour syrup, giggling over the pancakes shaped like hearts and stars. For the first time in months, the sound of family echoed in the Vale kitchen. If this moment interests you, take a second to like this video and subscribe for more stories where hearts change faster than fortunes ever could. Your support helps us keep sharing voices that deserve to be heard. After breakfast, Nora followed the girls to the playroom, the one no nanny had ever survived more than an hour in. It looked like a war zone of toys, dolls missing arms, puzzle pieces scattered across the floor. "All right, ladies," she said, hands on her hips. "We're going to clean this up. But we'll make it fun." "Fun?" The eldest, Ava, scoffed. "It's just work." "Depends how you look at it," Nora said, smiling. "Let's pretend we're a team of treasure hunters." Every toy is a lost jewel. Whoever finds the most wins. The girls exchanged glances. Then, slowly, they joined in. Within minutes, laughter filled the room again. Even little Jennifer, the shy one, smiled as Nora crowned her Queen of the Treasure. Upstairs, Ethan watched from the railing, unseen. His laptop screen glowed beside him, unread messages from investors, a half-finished report. Yet his eyes stayed fixed on the scene below. Something about the way Nora knelt to Jennifer's height, spoke softly, made space for their emotions without forcing joy. It stirred something old in him, something he'd buried after his wife's death. If this moment interests you, take a second to like this video and subscribe for more stories where hearts change faster than fortunes ever could. Your support helps us keep sharing voices that deserve to be heard. Later that day, while the girls napped, he found Nora in the library, rearranging books. "You've been busy," he said. She looked up. "Idle hands make restless hearts, sir." He hesitated, then asked, "How do you do it?" "They listen to you. They smile." Nora's expression softened. "Children don't need perfection, Mr. Vale. They just need presence." Her words landed heavier than she knew. Presence. He'd built empires, written speeches about leadership, but when it came to presence, he'd been a ghost in his own house. Before he could respond, a sudden cry shattered the quiet. Jennifer had woken from her nap, trembling from a nightmare. Nora was gone before he could move. She swept into the room, kneeling beside the little girl, whispering soothing words. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe. Just breathe." Jennifer clung to her neck, her sobs softening against Nora's shoulder. Ethan stood in the doorway, watching again, and for the first time, he saw what his money could never buy. That night, when the house finally grew quiet, Ethan lingered by his office window, staring into the rain. His reflection looked tired, not from work, but from loneliness. Below, he could still faintly hear Nora's hum, that same gentle lullaby, drifting up the stairs. And though he didn't understand why, he found himself closing his eyes, listening. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone in his own home. For 3 weeks, the Vale mansion was quieter, yet somehow more alive. No shouting, no slammed doors, just laughter that drifted down hallways once ruled by silence. But peace in houses built on pride never lasts forever. It started on a Friday. Rain had given way to sunlight, and the girls were outside, chasing bubbles across the lawn. Nora watched from the porch, her locket glinting in the light. She smiled, the kind of smile that carried both joy and memory. The little ones adored her, and even Ethan found himself walking slower past the windows just to hear them laugh. That was when she arrived. Carla Benson, head of household operations, sharp suit, sharper tongue. She had managed the Vale estate for years, running it like a business, not a home. And she never liked anyone she didn't hire herself. She spotted Nora across the yard, her expression tightening. "Who let the maid out of the house?" she muttered, heels clacking against marble as she stepped outside. Nora turned, polite as always. "Good afternoon, Miss Benson." "It's Mrs. Benson," Carla snapped. Her gaze swept over the scene. The girls barefoot in the grass, the nanny's apron slightly smudged with flour. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" "Playing," Nora replied softly. "It helps them feel safe." "Safe?" Carla scoffed. "They're not in danger. They're in the most secure estate in the city. What they need is discipline." She marched forward and snatched a bubble wand from Jennifer's hand. The little girl froze, eyes wide. "Miss Carla, please," she whispered. But before tears could form, Nora stepped between them. "I'll handle this." Carla raised a brow. "You'll handle it?" Her voice rose, sharp enough to cut glass. "This is exactly the problem. You've turned this place into a daycare. Mr. Vale expects excellence, not story time and bubble games." Ethan's voice came from behind them, deep and calm, but colder than usual. "Is there a problem?" Both women turned. The girls ran to their father, clinging to his legs. Carla's posture straightened immediately. "Sir, I was only explaining that our new maid seems to think her job includes playtime." Nora stood still. She didn't defend herself. She didn't need to. Ethan had seen everything. He looked at his daughters, smiling, glowing, alive. Then at Carla, rigid, immaculate, empty. "No," he said quietly. "She's doing exactly what I've needed someone to do." Carla blinked. "Sir?" "You may go," he added, his tone final. Carla hesitated, anger flashing behind her composure. "As you wish," she said stiffly and disappeared back into the mansion. But Nora's relief was short-lived. That night Ethan came to the living room. He looked tired, something unreadable behind his eyes. "You've been remarkable," he said. "The girls, they've changed." Nora smiled. "Children reflect what they feel, Mr. Vale." "That's all I did. Remind them how to feel safe again." He nodded, then hesitated. "But I need to ask you something." His tone shifted. "You told Jennifer a story today, about losing a child?" Nora froze. "She asked about my locket." "I didn't mean to overstep." His voice softened. "You didn't." "I just—" He paused, wrestling with something inside him. "My wife passed 3 years ago. I haven't been able to talk to them about her. It's like the moment I try, His words trailed off, breaking under their own weight. Nora said nothing. She simply listened. And in that silence, something unspoken settled between them. The shared ache of loss. Then a sound, a sharp voice echoing from the hallway. "Carla." "Mr. Vale," she called, storming in with a tablet clutched in her hands. "You need to see this." She turned the screen toward him. Security footage. It showed Nora in the kitchen earlier that day, handing her phone to a delivery man, whispering something. "I caught this from the front camera," Carla said. "She's been making calls off property." "I told you she wasn't what she seemed." Ethan's eyes flickered, uncertainty clouding his judgment. "Nora?" "It was my daughter," Nora said softly. "I send her a message every week. Just to let her know I'm safe." Carla folded her arms. Or maybe you're sending more than that." The room fell silent. The girls stood in the doorway, confused. Ethan looked between them, between the woman who had rebuilt his home and the one who'd served his house for years, and for the first time since Nora arrived. He hesitated. The next morning the mansion felt colder. Rain drummed softly against the tall windows, and the laughter that used to dance through the halls was gone. The girls ate breakfast quietly, their spoons clinking against the bowls like whispers of what used to be. Nora wasn't there. She had packed her things before dawn, one small suitcase folded neatly beside the kitchen counter. When she turned to leave, she caught sight of the piano in the corner, dusted, untouched, waiting. She'd never heard it played, but somehow it had become a symbol of the silence that once ruled this place. Now, that silence had returned. Ethan stood in his study, staring at the paused footage on Carla's tablet. Nora's face frozen mid-sentence. The delivery man outside, the brief exchange. Carla's voice echoed in his memory. "She's been making calls off property." He wanted to believe her, but his gut twisted, because deep down, he didn't. Carla entered without knocking. "She's gone," she said flatly. "I made sure security escorted her out this morning, for the safety of the family." Ethan turned, anger flashing in his eyes. "You what?" "I followed protocol, sir." "We can't take risks. You have children here." He stepped closer, voice low and dangerous. "You overstepped." Again. Carla crossed her arms, but there was a flicker of fear beneath her defiance. "With all due respect, Mr. Vale, you were too close. She was manipulating you." He said nothing, but the look he gave her said everything. Outside, a knock echoed against the front door. It was faint at first, then louder, urgent. When the butler opened it, 3 small figures pushed their way through. The girls, soaked from rain, clutching umbrellas far too big for their hands. Jennifer was crying. "Daddy," she sniffled, "you have to bring her back." Ethan knelt down. "Sweetheart, who?" "Nora," the youngest cried, tears streaking down her cheeks. "She didn't do anything. We saw her talking to the delivery man. She was asking about a book for us." Ethan froze. "What book?" Jennifer reached into her raincoat and pulled out a small package, its paper damp from the rain. Inside was a worn children's storybook. The title faded, but the dedication on the first page still legible. "For little hearts learning how to be brave." His heart dropped. He looked at Carla, realization crashing down. "You lied," Carla stammered, color draining from her face. "Sir, I only showed what I saw." "No," he said, voice rising. "You showed what you wanted me to see." He didn't wait for another word. Grabbing his coat, Ethan ran out into the rain. The storm had eased to a drizzle by the time he reached the bus stop at the edge of town. There she was, Nora, standing under the shelter, suitcase by her side, her blue dress clinging to her in the damp air. She wasn't crying. She just looked tired. When she saw him, her eyes widened slightly. "Mr. Vale?" He stopped a few feet away, catching his breath. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried," she said softly. "But sometimes, people only hear what they already believe." The rain pattered around them, soft but steady. Cars hissed by in the wet street. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said quietly, "I'm sorry." Her gaze lowered. "You don't need to apologize, sir. I've seen it before. People don't always trust kindness when it comes from someone who looks like me." That hit him harder than any accusation could. He stepped closer. "You changed this house. You changed my girls. You changed me." Her lips trembled, the first crack in her composure. He continued, voice breaking slightly. "They called you a maid. But you were the first person who made this home human again." A bus slowed to a stop nearby, its doors hissing open. Nora looked at it, then back at him. "I can't go back there," she whispered. "Not unless it's because they need me. Not because someone allows me." Ethan's eyes softened. "Then come back for them. They're waiting." For a long moment she hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. Hours later, the Vale mansion was alive again. The girls ran into Nora's arms as if they'd been holding their breath all morning. Ethan watched from the doorway, emotion flickering behind his tired smile. Carla was gone. Dismissed quietly, her lies folded neatly into a signed termination letter. And in her place, warmth returned. That evening, the piano finally played. The same piano that had stood silent for years now filled the mansion with sound, a melody that belonged to both grief and healing. Ethan stood by the doorway, watching Nora play softly as the girls leaned against her, eyes half closed. When the final note faded, he whispered, almost to himself, "For the first time in a long time, it feels like home." Nora looked up, meeting his eyes, and smiled. "Because it is," she said. If stories like this remind you that power means nothing without compassion, hit like and subscribe, so you never miss the next story where a single act of kindness rebuilds what pride once destroyed, and proves that hearts, not titles, are what truly lead a home.